How's it going, fellas? Today we have a very big haul video for you. I'm talking like 9 figures or so, plus one of the coolest items I've recently bought like in a very long time. With any luck, we'll have one more unboxing video in December, but today we're playing catch up with our recent purchases, and I've definitely let things accumulate a little too much. Luckily for me, we actually have some help today in the form of a sponsor. The wonderful folks over at FlexiSpot were nice enough to send me over a desk to check out and to highlight for you guys, which is this guy right here. The FlexiSpot E8 electrical standing desk. Whether it's working at home or making these videos, I spend most of my days planted in this chair. It's not so great for my back. I'm honestly older than you might think, so I'm genuinely excited to incorporate this desk into my workflow. The desk came in 2 big boxes and was surprisingly simple to put together. I decided to follow their YouTube tutorial, and it must have taken like an hour tops. Just be sure, like most furniture, to have somebody on standby to help you flip this guy around because you do build it upside down. With the frame being made of metal and the desktop bamboo, we're talking high quality and sturdy parts that are built to last. In order to get the desk moving, all you gotta do is head on over to the control panel. It's super straightforward. You hold the up arrow to raise its height and the down arrow to lower it. The motor feels extremely smooth as it adjusts, and man, this desk goes way higher than you might think, and also quite low too. You also get 4 additional buttons for presets that you can customize to your liking, so find your preferred heights for standing and sitting, and you'll never have to worry about it again. No joke, I'm glad I put that preset already because I genuinely forgot what number I had this desk set at. And now I'm good to go. And as a little bonus, there's a USB port on the side here if you ever need to charge your phone, which is super handy. For today's video, we'll be using this desk for our entire unboxing, but whether I keep it here or replace my current desk over there for work, it's an impressive piece of equipment either way, and I gotta thank them once again for sending it over. If you'd like to check out FlexiSpot and the desks that they offer, I'll leave a link in the description down below where you can learn more and potentially grab one for yourself. Alright, so first up is this pretty heavy package actually from Right Stuf. Makes me kind of sad just thinking about it. They've been absorbed by Crunchyroll at this point. Hopefully things are going smoothly over there, but before the site went down, I had to place one more order. It was a perfect excuse for me to actually buy some manga for once, considering there was like a site-wide 15 to 25% off. Some of you out there are gonna question how I don't own this already, but I was really just waiting for the right time, which means I was trying to save as much money as possible. I guess I just have to do this one by one, but yeah, we grabbed every single volume of Dead Demons Destruction. I may stutter when I make these videos, but that is in fact the title of this series. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with this series, this is actually where my channel's icon and banner comes from. Ontan is one of my favorite characters ever in like anything. When she's on the pages, I am glued to the manga. And when she's not, I'm just left asking, where's Ontan? So what the hell is this manga about? Well, essentially the Earth has been invaded by aliens, and the story is taking place in the middle of an apocalypse. There's this gigantic spaceship that's just hovering over Japan, but all of this happened about 3 years ago. And they've just been here ever since. Like sometimes aliens drop down and the government's trying to deal with it, the army as well. There's other groups involved, but it's a really slow process. So for everybody else, normal people, they just have to keep living their life when they don't even know if their next day is going to come. You know, going to school, going to work, trying to find the right college, hanging out with your friends, maybe falling in love. Just trying to find the sense of normalcy in a situation that feels really bleak. The story mostly focuses on Kadode and Ontan, 2 best friends getting ready to graduate high school, not really sure where their life is headed, but they're also super interested in the aliens as well, so they investigate that when they can. They're such an eccentric, lovable pair when they're with each other. Like, their dynamic really carries the story. They're so fun to follow. It's just so strange tonally as well, because there are some darker moments. There are some like pretty big twists, but also the way the manga is drawn and the way the characters act, it's just like so goofy and cartoony. It just doesn't feel like anything else I've ever read. It's crazy to think that this started back in 2014 because it's more relevant now than it ever was back then. But yeah, if you ever feel like reading something a little bit different, give this one a shot. The manga wasn't the only thing I bought from Right Stuf though. I decided to take advantage of free shipping and bought my very first normal pop-up parade. Ideally from Bravely Default. I just felt like I was gonna regret not picking her up if I didn't. Not too much to say about the box. I do like that they included the original arts on the back of the box, and hey, it's really small, so that's definitely a plus. I know people are pretty iffy on pop-up parades, and trust me, I completely understand, but you know what? It's not bad. I think what helps is that she's more stylized than the average anime character, like in art style and proportions. Both the eyes and the mouth aren't sculpted, but rather like stamped on her, so her face looks pretty clean. I always felt like they slightly missed the mark on these Bravely Default figures. I'm talking all 4 of the characters back when they only went up for pre-order, but now that I'm looking at her in person and it's like a $35 figure, I'd honestly give it like a 7, maybe even an 8 out of 10 for the face. I think it's pretty solid. The colors on Idia are pretty nice too. You know, the hair is a soft light blonde, the red of the dress is very vibrant, and the metallic plates along the rim have a decent shimmer to them. Neither the sculpt nor the paint is like super sloppy, and that's all I was really hoping for here. Ideally is just cute, man. I don't know what to say. Her little bow tie up top and the bear cub pattern on the back. Oh, and for whatever reason, they gave her a nicer base than like most pop-up parades out there. I really like this color. I'm not gonna pretend like this is super impressive or anything, but I think the value's there. If you're a fan of this character for sure, you should be satisfied with it. And I do like that they chose the chibi version of her instead of the like the art style on the back of the box, because this is what we're used to, right? This is how she looks in the game. So yeah, a nice little addition to the collection. All right, next up, I think we should get our game on. We're gonna do 2 figures at once. I gotta get the big box though. Well, one of like 3 big boxes. All right, we'll save you for later. Oh. Yeah, I've been holding on to these for a while. Jaden and Chaz from Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. I don't know if people were looking forward to these, but you can't say I don't try to unbox male figures on this channel now. So both these lads went up for pre-order at the exact same time, but originally I was only gonna get Chaz. It wasn't until like a month later where I said screw it and ordered Jaden as well. At first I was just trying to Chaz it up, but the pre-order button compelled me on both of these guys. What could I say? I really don't know why, but throughout my years of collecting, I've very often neglected collecting any Yu-Gi-Oh! Figures despite being a core component of my childhood. I was addicted to the original series. It was the only card game I ever learned how to play. Like, yeah, I also collected Pokemon cards like most kids did, but that was strictly for the thrill of finding like rare and cool cards. Yu-Gi-Oh's art style is so stylized and unique too, not to mention, this show was the first time I inadvertently learned what having a waifu was. That date episode with Taya absolutely rewired my brain the first day I saw it. Basically what I'm trying to say is that I'm dumb and I'm trying to fix my mistakes right now. All I was looking for when it came to these figures was art style accuracy, and I definitely got that. They are both perfect in that regard. It's so great that a company like Amakuni just loves Yu-Gi-Oh! So if they ever make a figure from the series I'm interested in, I know it's gonna look good. I will say though that neither of their bases look that particularly great. I do like the color of Jaden's, but the logo and name is a bit overkill just because they're so big. And honestly, at first, I thought that Chaz's base was opaque, but they're both transparent. It just doesn't look like it when you put Chaz on a surface. Also, as you can see, Jaden's in a bit of like a wild, dynamic pose, which from what I've heard can lead to leaning over time. It definitely fits him for sure. I like this pose a lot. But surprisingly, it seems like nothing was done to remedy this issue. The only plus side about this is that both of them have metal pegs, so that should help, but I feel like I'm gonna need to come up with a solution for this. Both of these guys come with monsters that they are closely associated with. Like for Jaden, it's the lovable Karibo, who plugs into the base and floats behind him, very cute. And for Chaz, you get a group of Ojamas. These little creatures are freaks, and I wouldn't have it any other way. You kind of just place them wherever you want though, so they can fall over really easily, which does suck and kind of gets annoying. It's just kind of cool though that through both of these figures, you get a taste of like the wild variants of monster designs that you could find in Yu-Gi-Oh! Another difference between these two is in the form of a second headpiece for Jaden. Boy's got the heterochromia now, but it's really intense looking actually. Chaz gets nothing like this. In fact, Jaden also comes with an additional arm and hand, so you can choose to have him with the cards or not. But Chaz, one pose. All that says to me is that my guy Chaz is so perfect that he only needed one attempt to look good. I'm only now realizing how tight both their jeans and shirts are though, like good lord leave some breathing room down there. Chaz especially, but they do rock the look. There's an unreasonable amount of creases and folds on both of them, but it's strangely fitting, and I can't help but like it a lot. Also, just the way Amakuni painted their clothes looks super good, like lots of lighter shades gradating into the darker colors. There's a lot of attention being put into these seemingly simple figures. Eye decals looking nice and sharp, hair sculpt spiky and exaggerated like we've come to love, dual disc lined in blue and red metallic paint for a little bit of pop, and essentially no sloppy paint or rough plastic throughout both figures. Minus Jaden's potential leaning, these two delivered exactly what I was looking for from some Yu-Gi-Oh figures, and honestly maybe even more so. Like, they're not really gonna blow your mind, they're kind of similar to the Pokemon figures, but of a higher quality. So if you're a fan of this series, you're definitely gonna be happy if you pick either of these two up. Alright, so next up we got two boxes here, but I'm gonna make a choice. I'm only gonna do one of these right now. I'll save the next one for the next video. And this is the only figure I'm gonna show off that I'm not going to unbox. And the reason for that is because apparently this figure has some like connection issues with the joints. But I'll show you what it is real quick, just so I don't blue ball ya. This is the 3-0 Nikaido. I don't know if the light is making it impossible to see. Apparently there's some problems with like the wrist joints and the ponytail, and considering I'm doing so many figures today, I'd rather save this for when like the workload isn't as high. So instead we're gonna do this figure, which I'm equally excited about, the Metroid Dread Samus Figma. I don't buy a lot of Figma these days, but this premium packaging really makes me want to. This is some nice stuff. Ooh, it's even nicer on the inside, look at that. Play Metroid Dread if you haven't, by the way. It is such a brilliant return to form for the Metroid series. It's so good. Alright, so I've only fiddled around with this figure for like a minute or so, but this has gotta be one of the best figures I've ever had the pleasure of handling when it comes to the articulation. Yeah, there's some expected restrictions like her cannon arm, of course, but stuff like the double bend of the knee and the impressive torso and abdomen freedom, and how the shoulder pads float above her shoulders just opens up a world of possibilities. Unfortunately, my knowledge on joints is limited, so it's best to watch another review of her for like further details. But it feels like Max Factory is making a statement with this figure, not to mention the paint, the crisp metallic blue and red running throughout the figure, the green accents, the polish is unreal. I am in love. The Dread suit is so sick, dude. The accessories are pretty great here too, if not a little limited, right? As usual, you get the morph ball, which looks just as good as the main body, can also plug into the stand if you want to. Next up is the Omega Cannon, fully open and ready to blast, another piece of impressively sculpted plastic to marvel at. I really wish though that Max Factory would include energy beams with these Figma, like they just stopped at the other M version, and I don't know why. And then finally, the most unique piece of this package, a spider magnet wall panel that will allow you to stick Samus onto metal surfaces. What a cool idea this is. Actually, you know what? This desk does have a metal frame. I bet I can get a pretty cool shot of it like moving while this is attached. It's worth a shot at the very least. I don't know if I'm being insanely biased here. I probably am, but this has gotta be one of the best Figma ever made. The best way I can describe it is just smooth. It just feels amazing to pose. The range is so impressive and fluid. On top of that, the paint job just rivals scale figures that I own. Like, I don't know what else to say here. Hey, you know what? If you're a Metroid fan, then you need one of these, like straight up. Stop what you're doing and hunt one of these down before you regret it. A little late on this one, but it's time for some Bocchi the Rock with Hitori's Nendoroid. I'm sure a lot of you already have this, but humor me as I finally check her out myself. The little introvert who took the world by storm. Like everybody else, I just felt like I had to get this after they showed off the faceplates, also because the show is extremely popular and I like it a lot. I quite like both of these extra faceplates to the point where I can't really choose a favorite. It's kind of tough. One where she's crying, as you see here, and one where she's basically distorted from stress and anxiety. Very relatable. Her blank stare is alright, if only for the fact that you get to see her eyes, which are a nice shade of blue, but let's be real, that one's staying in the box. It's kind of surprising that she didn't come with more, but now I'm realizing that I never pre-ordered those extra faceplates. Well. As for the accessories, you get her guitar, which is a given of course, also wraps around her shoulders, which is nice, and a big blanket body piece where she's huddled inside it and you can kind of see her feet poking out. Almost looks like a Zelda like if you squint, or perhaps a burrito wrap. This might be the rare instance though where I just go without accessories, instead opting in for the hand parts and my wacky expression of choice. Don't get me wrong, I like the accessories a lot, but for my enjoyment I feel like they're not really needed. A cute little Nendoroid for sure, nothing to really complain about in terms of quality control. The colors are nice, especially her vibrant pink hair, and the little hair clip cubes of course, and they nailed the two faceplates that mattered the most. Okay, so let's take a break from figures for just a second because we have a new item for the Xenoblade collection, and oh boy, is it a special one. A truly rare piece that I always wanted, and I finally managed to find it. You might think I'm just gassing up nothing, but let me go get it. I gotta be so careful with this thing. See, this is how you know I'm in way too deep. This is the Xenoblade Chronicles 3D promotional standee. It is beautiful. It is so cool. Now granted, it's Xenoblade 3D, the 3DS game, which is the last version of the game you should ever play if you have the option, but at the end of the day, it's still Xenoblade Chronicles, and that's all that matters. So these were most likely displayed in GameStops and whatnot to promote the game, of course, as it was coming out. It's not really something you can easily get your hands on unless you know somebody, but one day I was just browsing eBay looking for stuff to buy, as you do, and this guy just popped up. It was a bid too. There was a buy it now option, but it was way more money. So I called my girlfriend because she really loves Xenoblade as well, and after some back and forth whether or not we should actually buy something like this, we decided to just split the costs and go for the bid. Unfortunately, this thing was ending at 5 a.m., and I remember that night I was feeling like crap. I think I had a migraine or something, so I just went to bed. I figured I don't want to worry about it. Nobody bid on it at that time, so it was whatever. But then I found out the next day that she actually did wake up for this, which was very surprising to me. I didn't ask her to do it. I think it was kind of just on me to do the bidding, but I'm very thankful because nobody else bid on this thing. So after tax and shipping, we paid about 90 each, so roughly 180, which, you know what, that might sound like a lot for cardboard, and it absolutely is. But if you look this thing up, it's gonna be $300 to $500, and this is only going to become more rare as the days go on, right? And it's in such nice condition too. The only thing, the only flaw of this piece is the little tip right here on the top. Everything else is flawless, which is crazy. You got Shulk in the front, the Mechonis in the background. It's iconic stuff, you know? The only thing I wish is that more standees existed for the series, but as far as I'm aware, this is the only one, at least in America. But yeah, not much else to say. It kind of just feels surreal owning this, and it makes me very happy. But I gotta admit, I have no idea where this is supposed to go right now, so I guess it's going into the storage room for the time being. I gotta protect this thing for dear life, that's my mission right now. Anyway, we've crossed the bridge from my figures, and now we're actually going to be taking a look at some of my partners. And you're probably gonna like her figures more than mine, or at least I'm assuming so. We've got a pretty good selection, if I do say so myself. All right, we can't really leave this box here. I'm putting it on the side, but our first figure is something that I know absolutely nothing about, and that is Nendoroid Saint Tail. She flipped out when this was originally announced. This must be a series that gets no merchandise or figures. So this one is made by Good Small Art Shanghai, which makes this the first figure of theirs I'm taking a look at. That's kind of cool. They put some extra effort into her box, which I really do appreciate. Got this starry night sky with a bunch of pink flowers around it. Makes her feel a little bit more special. She's got a very cute design right off the bat. The sparkly 90s eyes and her swoopy ponytail, which is on a joint, which I like a lot. Her design and accessories make me think of a bubbly magician girl, though apparently she's more like Robin Hood, stealing from thieves and returning the goods to their original owners. Saint Tail is one of those Nendoroids where every single expression she got is just adorable, you know? You get a happy wide smile as your default, which is way better than most default faceplates on Nendoroids, a silly wink with her tongue sticking out, which is probably my favorite, and an extreme blushing face. This girl is in love. Saint Tail also comes with 3 accessories, all of which seem pretty essential and also fun to use. Her scepter is definitely my favorite due to its gold finish and the red jewel on top, but she also comes with a magician's hat, which I'm pretty sure she can't wear, but instead she holds it and then you can put this little fella inside to make it look like they're popping out. I think the only negative I can possibly think of is that due to her outfit being almost entirely black, the colors are a bit flat on the ensemble, but I think the pink skirt and the clip on her bow tie help break up that monotony. I am absolutely reaching though, because I can't really think of anything negative to say here. If I bought this, I feel like I would be extremely satisfied. It's also a bit of a dream come true figure, considering not only does this exist, she finally has a figure on the market, but they also did such a good job with it. What more could you possibly ask for? Next up, we got a bit of a surprise figure, Kasumi from Persona 5 Royal. I'll explain what I mean when I get her out of here, so let's unbox her. And a little finicky. Okay. I was hoping to say effortless assembly, but the peg was, a little annoying. Took a minute or two to fit it in correctly, but no big deal. Really like this box though. It's nice and small, which is a blessing these days, but also just the design of it, right? Clearly pulling inspiration from the game's aesthetic with the colors and the flashy stars and the sharp angles. Carries right over into her base too, like it might as well be ripped straight from the game's menus. So yeah, she played Persona 5 way back when it originally came out, but never Royal. When I started to play Royal this year, she just assumed that I would like this character and kind of just ordered it for that reason alone. Also because this figure was really cheap, I'm talking like 13 to 15,000 yen. She probably should have hit me up beforehand, but she was right. Kasumi's a darling, so it all worked out. Now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure this is the first time I'm looking at a normal Fat Company figure in years. I don't really count Hokusai, considering she was part of the luxury line. That's a bit of a special case. As you can see, Kasumi is doing the big stretch here in this pose, a nod to her athleticism, I'm sure. Very fitting. This is another figure actually primarily painted black, but at a much higher quality, of course. The shading on her leggings is excellent, and light bounces off of her top in a really natural and pleasing way. Her clothes aren't super wrinkled, but it makes sense considering the blazer's thicker material, whereas her skirt was set in motion ever so slightly to match her movement. Also, the red accents of her buttons and glossy shoes really pop out at you, on top of her eyes and hair, of course. Early photos of her hair made it look unreasonably red to like the harshest degree, but I'm happy to say that the color is a pleasant and recognizable shade with like subtle gradation when needed. The flow of her hair is another highlight, though I don't think the overall sculpt is like a showstopper. It's definitely solid for sure though. For what is roughly around the $100 mark or so, and I believe is currently on sale as well, I think they did a perfectly fine job here. This certainly feels like Kasumi, and is one of the only options you have if you want a figure of her in her school uniform. The only real issues I have with her is 1, her mouth sculpting looks a tad rough, but it's really only an issue up close, and 2, whoever applied the plaid design to her skirt must have been in a rush to get to lunch because they did not really try to align it back here. If that was on the front of the figure, I might be complaining more, but as they say, out of sight, out of mind. Maybe this is worth contacting Good Small Company about, but at the same time, it's also not my figure, so it's not really my decision to make. We're moving on now to our penultimate figure, one that I was thinking about getting for myself, and one that I feel like might have gone under the radar a little bit, considering there are so many figures for this character. Alter's Rizaland Stouts, or Smug Risa, if you will. Boom, that took 2 seconds. So, this figure's defining trait is the uniquely cheeky expression that Risa's got across her face. I do remember people stating that this didn't really feel like Risa due to it, despite how this figure is based off of official artwork, but it's fine. Not everybody's gonna vibe with this look. Me, on the other hand, that was the reason I wanted this figure in the first place, but at the time, I had way too many orders, so I decided to pass. That's when my partner came in and just swooped in and nabbed her. Even when I was looking at this figure through the box, I could just tell that the paint job on her was like heavenly. And now that there's no more like plastic in the way, yeah, this is definitely the nicest figure that we're looking at today. Another great box too, the gold decor, the blue sky with the clouds. It's kind of similar to Kasumi's figure in the sense that the box design is kind of being carried over into the base, but it does make me question the situation of this figure. Like, is she walking on air, or is this more so the water reflecting the sky? It kind of blows my mind though that people wouldn't like this face, like whether you consider it smug or naughty, my mind just kind of goes to captivating. I find this expression charming as hell. We don't need to dwell on it anymore, but I really like it. But more than that, the way Alter painted this figure is like nearly perfect. The standout for me is probably her hair, how they mixed in some lighter shades to give the impression that the sun is shining down on her. Her hair just looks so soft and attractive. And you don't have to ask if the rest of the paint throughout her outfit and skin meets a similar standard, because of course it does. You gotta love all the gold bits and trims throughout her clothes. It's such an eye catcher. Even those little clear vials filled with colorful potions and whatnot around her waist look really good. At this point, I feel the definition of shorts is being stretched both figuratively and literally, but compared to Max Factory's Risa, the plumpness is kept at a somewhat reasonable degree. That is to say, for thick anime thighs, it's attractive, yet not excessive to the point of questioning anatomy. And you know, while we're here on the subject, the razor-thin top that's hugging her skin quite closely by the chest is sure to be a crowd pleaser. It really does highlight her figure in a realistic way, just due to the portion below the chest hanging a bit loosely. Alter's approach to her clothing is just marvelous, and they've managed to capture this sensation of a moderate breeze throughout the entire sculpt. So, best Risa figure. I don't think I can make that claim. Really good Risa figure that will likely drop on the aftermarket due to oversaturation and then become a steal of a deal? Yeah, I think so. Alright friends, it's the end. One more figure to go, and it's a big one. I never really get a chance to check out these figures because I just don't buy them myself, so I figured this would be a good opportunity to highlight one of them. But what could it be? As always, I put it on the desk and then I don't have room to take it out while the box... I don't know why I do it like this, but whatever. Oh, Danganronpa Junko's bunny version. Any of you guys pick this one up? Assembly should be really simple, so let's just get her out before we start talking. The memories of the Taiga figure are coming back. This figure actually smells so bad, I don't understand. Okay, whatever, it doesn't matter. Let's talk about the figure. I guess there's no helping it, but good lord, you could eat off of this base, it's so big. It's also kind of boring, you know, glossy black and whatnot, but this is a figure where you could ditch the base if you want to. Kinda, like she does plug into it, so I think if you don't use the base, you do run the risk of having the figure tip over, and since this isn't mine, I'm not gonna take that risk. Seems like she turned out pretty good though, you know? It's nice to see that they stuck with those larger fishnet holes, if only for a change of pace. It doesn't really mask her legs as much as like every other bunny girl, so it's kind of just different to see. I like it. The suit itself is neat as well, as it splits down the middle, like black and white, with a large diamond cutout around her stomach. Like even something like this is enough to feel refreshing when it comes to a normal bunny figure. Also, I'm glad they incorporated at least a few elements from her original design, like the bear clips in her hair, her red nails of course, and the kick-ass boots. They're very cool to see on a bunny. In fact, that's my favorite part of the figure. But I do wish they spent some extra time separating the laces from the boots. A matte finish for the laces and a glossy finish for the boots instead of the entire thing being glossy would have just looked better, especially when you consider that the tied bow portion is matte, so it just feels a little lazy, and I think that separation would have went a long way. I also wish that her tie was here like the one that she typically wears, but the red bow tie isn't bad. Maybe they just thought that it wouldn't work that well with this sculpt. I'm not really sure, but it's okay. Anyway, as for her face, I think it looks pretty good. Very reminiscent of Danganronpa's art style for sure. You gotta love all those eyelashes, and the glossy lips are very appreciated too. I'm not sure if I'm crazy though, but I can't help but feel like the shade of her hair is like a little off. I'd have to look at a photo of her to make sure, but if it is, it's just a tad. And hey, it's well shaded and the pigtails have that like slightly erratic design to them, like they should. Solid bunny figure though, it's a nice pose for one too. I do kind of wish that her face was a bit more expressive, like in the game, just maybe represent that side of her on this figure, but what can you do? Also, if I want to get a little bit more nitpicky, I do feel like they could have defined her back just a little bit more. Even like a hint of realism, I feel like would have looked a lot better, but it's a little flat back there right now. Not a big deal, but that's how I feel. But you know, I think with that, we're done. So thank you very much for joining me in this very big unboxing video. And once again, thank you to FlexiSpot. This desk is so nice, even just to look at. This looks so much better than the desk I typically use, but I really should replace the one over there because that thing is rotting away. I'll definitely incorporate this desk into more of my videos, but we'll see what the future holds. Either way, thank you guys very much for watching. Let me know what you thought about all these figures, the manga, the Xenoblade stand, whatever you want. Leave me a comment, I'll be sure to read it. And even though I just started this outro, somehow I lost my train of thought. I don't know how I did that. Either way, thank you once again, really appreciate it. I'll see you guys around. Later.